Namaste and welcome to Pramanic Astrology channel. I'm your host Prasad Mahazani. Help you raise your vibrations and become your true self with the help of Vedic astrology. Please let me know if you're able to hear my voice and see me clearly. Just confirm that into the chat window. Freaking awesome. Hello, sir. Avantika J1111. Good evening. You can comment. Yes, sir, I can hear. Thank you, freaking awesome. So good to have you on this live. I hope you're doing great. We can hear and see you clearly. Great. So, today we are going to discuss about the power of debilitation and the power of debilitated planet. Because most of the times we are afraid and we are often fear the debilitation. Good evening. Excited about the topic. Yes, even I'm excited about the topic and share about it. Okay, so what is the debilitation of planet? Debilitation of planet, if you're following my work for any amount of time, you know I never judge any placement literally. So when you have a debilitation of planets, first of all, let's look at the debilitation of each planet. Sun gets debilitated into the sign of Libra, gets exalted into the sign of Aries, right right next to it, 7 houses down the line, it gets debilitated into the sign of Libra. All the exaltation and debilitation are opposite to each other. Sun gets exalted at Aries, gets debilitated into the sign of Libra. Then moon gets exalted into the sign of Taurus and gets debilitated into the sign of Scorpio. And Mercury gets exalted into the sign of Virgo, gets debilitated into the sign of Pisces. Saturn is exalted into the sign of Libra and is debilitated into the sign of Aries. Mars exalted in Capricorn, debilitated in Cancer. We did Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars. Let's talk about Jupiter. Jupiter is exalted into the sign of Cancer and is debilitated into the sign of Capricorn. Okay, so these are the signs and sequence of debilitation and exaltation of planets. Whenever you have a debilitation of planet in your chart, what it shows is it gives you material wealth and abundance related to that house. No matter what, but it gives you the material abundance. For example, let's say you have Mars debilitated. When Mars is debilitated, what it shows is the energy of Mars is now feeling insecure because of the caring instincts of the Cancer. And he doesn't feel at home when he is in Cancer because his natural tendency is to go out and conquer and compete. So he likes to be into the sign of Capricorn, where he feels at home, where he is competing with each other, and there is strength. He has to test his strength, compete, win, achieve, get ahead, survive. He loves it. So Mars feels great into the sign of Capricorn. But what happens? What is the power m- uh, Mars in Cancer has? Okay, so when Mars is in Cancer, we definitely could see this is energetic mismatch for that planet. It is the exact opposite of what that inner nature of that planet. But when you have Mars placed into the sign of Cancer, it shows the financial gains. And how you would get these financial gains depends on the lordship of this Mars and its association with Moon. When debilitated Mars is associated with Moon, it gives you wealth, not because it is just ruling it, but Moon and Mars together is so good for wealth creation. There's something about these two planets because your mind now becomes competitive. The name of the Mars is Mangal, which literally means all good. So when you have debilitated Mars, it gives you ability to make more money. And all the challenging things we already discussed, how he feels uncomfortable into this sign and all. But on a other side, it gives you a lot of money. Let's say you have Mars and Moon conjunction into the first house. Now, the ascendant is Cancer, Moon is Cancer, Mars is in Cancer, and now that Mars is ruling the first house, not first house, the 10th house with Aries sign, and the Scorpio sign comes into the fifth house. So one Kendra and one trinal house. This debilitation, this Mars is ruling the 10th house and the fifth house in Cancer ascendant and is coming into the first house. So a Yoga Karaka planet comes into the ascendant along with the ascendant Lord. Now it becomes so powerful. So whenever I say you have to analyze and judge the condition of planet, that's what I mean. Just because you saw you have Mars in Cancer and you start feeling bad about it, you're losing out on so much information. So I always believe don't judge by just one information. And same applies to the exaltation. Don't get excited with the exaltation. Okay, we'll talk about it in some other live stream or maybe a video. But when you have Mars, let's talk about this. Somebody has a question about Mars. Somebody's asking question about Mars. Debilitated Mars with Ketu in the 12th house for Leo rising. Yes, of course. Again, you see the Mars is in the 12th house, debilitated with Ketu. Now, Ketu and Mars has their own equation. We have already made videos on Mars Ketu, and it has its own strength. And what is the strength of Mars and Ketu? Problem solving is the strength of Mars and Ketu. Now it is going into the 12th house. 12th house is the house of exhaustion of the energy. When you have Ketu placed into the 12th house along with the Mars, it shows you have some divine guidance about certain problems in your life. You will receive the solution through dreams, or maybe you have dreams about certain historic places, and all that can be seen with Mars Ketu in the 12th house. But what it has to do with the debilitation. Now, for Leo rising, the Mars becomes Yoga Karaka again. Why? Because it rules the fourth sign, fourth house, the Kendra house, and the ninth house, and it becomes Yoga Karaka again for Leo. So though it is debilitated, though it is into the 12th house along with the Ketu, it is equally powerful when it comes to giving you the material gains and a problem solving uh, powers. Okay, and that's how you look at the debilitation. Now let's look at the debilitation of Mercury. Mercury gets exalted into the sign of Virgo, and it gets debilitated into the sign of Pisces. Mercury is, if you look at the sequence of planets, it is the king sun, then the queen moon, and then the prince Mercury. And that's why Mercury is all about connecting with people and doing all kinds of leisure activities, enjoying the life, network, friendships, and all kinds of things. And it gets exalted into the sign of Virgo, which is the sign of detailing. And Mercury loves the details. Mercury can notice so many details and record the details. So, Mercury is all about recording the information, organizing the information, and communicating the same information. So, when you have Mercury into the sign of Virgo, it it feels good and it operates on its higher plane. But what happens when you have Mercury into the debilitation sign of Pisces? Now, Pisces is the sign of isolation, the planet of communication comes into the sign of isolation. So um, he doesn't get to connect with people because of isolation. Pisces is a water element sign, and there is hardly any uh, communication because it is not about the communication. Pisces is all about the depth of your emotions, is about the feelings you have. And Mercury is not only about the feelings, but expressing those feelings with others, sharing, networking, connecting with people is what Mercury is all about. And that's why it doesn't feel good into the sign of Pisces of isolation. So, what is good? What is the strength of Mercury into this sign of Pisces? So, when you have Mercury placed into the sign of Pisces, again, it shows connection of the communication with the other world. The intuition of these people is amazing. This will make you, like, this will astonish you if you look at the intuition of a person with Mercury in Pisces, because that is their strength. That's all they have. They are not able to say it, so that Mercury, though it is into the isolation of Pisces, tries to gather the information. And where it is now, it is into the other world, it is into the godly world, it is into the dreams, it is into the feelings, it is into the losing yourself and giving up on yourself, not giving up on yourself but letting go of all the things, is Pisces. And when Mercury comes in here, these people have access to secret information, and this secret information is the divine guidance which helps them in their life. Okay, So if let's see if someone has question. So can this be applied to eighth aspect of Mars in the sixth house, Cancer ascendant? Okay, this seems to be for Mars. We'll talk about it later. So Mercury debilitation for Libra Lagna. It's a bit complicated as it is also a bit. Yeah, exactly. Each each condition will be unique. Like we discussed about Mars debilitation with Ketu in the 12th house. So planet is debilitated, is Yogakaraka, and is conjunct with another planet. Similarly, when you have Mercury debilitation for Libra, so it's again in the 12th house, and then it shows the balance. Whenever you see a Rashi, you should also use it in terms of houses. Like when I say that's Pisces and Virgo, you should also apply the logics of the sixth house and 12th house combinations. So this is all about combining and balancing these two energies. Exaltation is not good, debilitation is not bad, it is just what it is. Okay, now let's look at the debilitation of Jupiter. Jupiter gets exalted into the sign of Cancer and it gets debilitated into the sign of Capricorn. Now you can understand why it gets debilitated into the sign of Capricorn. Jupiter is the planet of finance. The planet of finance comes into the sign which is the apex of Earth element trine. Earth element trine is 2 6 10, and the planet of finance comes into the apex or the top sign of the Earth element. I'll tell you one more secret about these trines. Each trine, each trine, Artha trine, Kama trine, Moksha trine, Self trine, all these trines have one house which is a Kendra house. Okay, you will always find one house which is a Kendra house. 159, one is Kendra. 2 6 10, 10 is Kendra. 3 7 11, 7 is Kendra. And 4 8 12, 4 is Kendra. So these Kendra houses in the Artha trine, Kama trine, Moksha trine are the pivots of those trines. So for Artha trine, Capricorn becomes the pivot, that highest point of that trine. So that's why you will see there is so much focus and importance is given to the 10th house for your career, recognition, and your own growth, vision, visibility, and your fame. All these things is decided on the 10th house. So we all consider Jupiter as a very spiritual and a good planet. Yes, it is a Shubhagra and a very good planet, but at the same time, he has the personality of a general. He's not a commando like Mars, but he guides you. Sun is the king, Mars is the soldier, and Jupiter is a general who guides the forces, who gives wisdom to the forces. He doesn't order, he inspires, he leads that with its wisdom. And that's what happens when Jupiter comes into the sign of Capricorn. These people have a great sense of finance. And on the downside, these people can teach you freely. They would give you all the things free. The things which you're supposed to pay, they will give you for free. And this is their karma. For example, if you have Jupiter in the Cancer along with Moon, amazing. But let's say you have Jupiter with Moon in Capricorn, even better for your financial growth, because this gives you a great financial sense, a sense of money, sense of wealth can be seen with Jupiter into the sign of Capricorn. Okay. Now, let's talk on. We discussed Mars, we discussed Mercury, we discussed Jupiter. Let's discuss Venus. I think we also discussed Sun. So let's discuss Venus. Venus is an important planet for all of us because 90% of our happiness will come through our relationships with the people. Whether it is your marriage or the loving relationships you have in your life, of your friends, the people that matter, and those around you, the meaningful relationships makes your life. It's such an important part of our life. So mm, Venus becomes important. Now, what happens when Venus gets exalted into the sign of Pisces? Pisces is the sign of emotional depth. Along with that, it is the sign of universal expansive love energy. So Venus feels good in the sign of Pisces. But what happens when this Venus comes into the sign of Virgo? In fact, I like the debilitation of Venus more than the exaltation. Again, exaltation and debilitation are just the dignities. What is important is the condition of the planet. For example, let's say you have Venus exalted, and let's say you have Jupiter debilitated. Then it reduces the strength of this exaltation, uh, Venus. But let's say you have a debilitated Venus, but it is with the Mercury. Whenever I see Venus Mercury conjunction, I love that conjunction. There are few conjunction which just makes you give the energy, friendly energy, and it also brings in humor, brings in smiles and witty conversation with Venus conjunct with Mercury. Now, we are talking about the debilitation of Venus into the sign of Virgo. Virgo is analysis, okay? And you cannot love someone if you analyze too much. And that's why they say love is blind. Love has to be blind. If you are vigilant, if you are careful, if you're conscious, you cannot love because you see so many flaws into that person. But when you're in love, you just love that person and you just keep ignoring all those things, and that's how love is possible. Love is not possible with analysis. Love is possible only with devotion and surrender, the Pisces way. So when Venus comes into the sign of Virgo, these people analyze too much, they calculate too much. If you might have people around you in your life who has calculations going on, what they would do with their partner, what kind of partner they want, how much he should earn, how he should, what should be his background, his or her background, and all that. they they have these calculations ready with them, and that's what the Venus in Virgo does. So what strength it gives is, it doesn't, it protects these people from getting cheated. It's surprising, and you will be surprised to see that though it is debilitated, that might delay the relationship. But what I have observed is these people get very good partners. They might have to compromise on certain things, but based on what they have got for themselves, they reach to a partner who is way above their league, and they manage to get to that partner, manage to reach to that partner. And that is the strength of debilitated Venus. Analysis of the other person to get the best out of him. So observe yourself, people around you, and you will find a lot of people with Venus and Venus in debilitation have, in fact, a very good partner, have a very, and you will find they have reached to that partner. It's, they are not lucky or they're not blessed. They have made their way through that partner. And that is the strength of debilitated Venus. Now, let's talk about the debilitation of Saturn. Debilitation of Saturn is often, mostly is feared, but you will see that the planet of success, planet of work, is coming into the sign of Aries, the self. Okay, so of the the strength of Saturn in Aries, it makes them work on themselves, because Saturn is a planet which is insecure. Saturn is all about the negativity in our life. Saturn shows us the restrictions, things which we cannot do in our life. And when you have Saturn debilitated, it's a huge thing in the chart, and it can act either ways. So I have seen many charts with Saturn debilitated, and they are doing amazing. And one one pattern I have observed is they have Mars exalted in Kendra along with this, or they have a good planets in the sign of Libra. So these are the ways you can look at it. But the strength of Saturn debilitated is the balance and the humble confidence this person has. Oftentimes, whatever we see a person has is often achieved through lot of hard work. So whenever you see a person who is humble, you will hear a story of his arrogance and how he turned from being arrogant to become the humble person. I enjoy those anecdotes of, or short stories of all the monks, all the saints, which talks about anger, which talks about success, which talks about God. So when you have Saturn into the sign of Aries, Aries is the self. So the planet of fear, the planet of restriction, the planet of work is coming into the self. So it makes you work, and it makes you a person who is self reliant in a way, in a hard way, not an easy way. Because the sign of Libra, where Saturn gets exalted, is the sign of diplomacy, is the sign of social help and recognition. And that's where people are balanced. So when Saturn is into the sign of Libra, it has all the refined qualities of otherwise hardworking Saturn. So Saturn in Libra is different from all other planets. Along with that, you also have to see how that Venus is working, because Saturn in Libra only gives you good results if you have a good Venus. Okay, coming back to Saturn in Aries, the planet of restriction into the sign of self. So, the way it helps the individual is working hard on themselves by showing what is lacking. A lot of times you will see people are lazy with this placement in the first half of their life when they have no idea, and it just makes them work. And then you will see an hardworking individual in the later part of our life. Okay, so Saturn makes you work, and wherever you have Saturn aspecting, those are the blessed houses of your chart, because that's those are the houses where you will not be confident about it. So you'll always revise, you will always contemplate, you will always plan, you will always be disciplined and conscious about doing anything random there. So those houses where Saturn is not aspecting, those are the houses where we are going to make biggest mistake of our life. So be careful about the houses where Saturn aspecting, and we are constantly focusing on the houses where Saturn is aspecting, because they bring in a lot of work, because it shows a lot of restrictions and things you cannot do and you need to fix. Okay, so the strength of Saturn in Aries is the constant self improvement through working on yourself, and that is rewarded financially. I always love the Saturn. I have made so many videos of Saturn, and I want you guys to understand Saturn and not afraid of Saturn and Rahu as well. Saturn and Rahu are here to help you achieve your greatness in a hard way. In a Because following Rahu is scary, and following Saturn is, you need next level of hard work and dealing with fears, dealing with your inabilities. Okay, so this was Saturn debilitation. Now let's talk about which one we are missing. We did Mars, Mercury, Venus, Saturn, Jupiter, Sun. We did everything. Did I miss any planet? Okay, so this is the debilitation. And again, I want you to think that debilitation is just a placement, is just a dignity. More than debilitation, there is one more way to look at it. Oh, we missed moon. Okay, we'll cover that. So most importantly, most importantly, the thing is you should be focusing on the Neechbhanga as well. We'll discuss about that once we talk about the moon debilitation. Moon is the most important planet of astrology. We oftentimes overlook moon and just get caught up into all these fancy things. I call it fancy because I don't mean they're not important, but the simple basics of astrology is the advanced astrology. Okay, so moon is important. Why moon is important? Moon is important because moon dominates the way you feel, and the way you feel is the way your life is. For example, you might have everything in your life, but if you keep feeling something is missing in your life, you can't help yourself. And that is the power of moon. Moon creates desires. Moon creates your favors, like you like certain things, you don't like certain things, and you like certain things, that's why you do certain things. So people oftentimes say we have a free will, but moon is important. So your decision making depends on moon, and that's why when Sadesati is active, the Saturn is 12th to your moon. So you feel that burden of Saturn over your moon. Otherwise, Saturn is going over all the planets, and it means something, and it brings something. For example, let's say Saturn is moving over your ascendant, it means something. If it is going over your sun, it means something. But when it is going 12th to the moon, it brings in the highest amount of burdens in your life, and we are not used to it. When Saturn is in 11th, we feel good about it because Saturn is aspecting with the third aspect to the moon. So you're working and you're getting rewarded. So the point is, moon is the super planet of the chart, is the essence of the chart. So I want, and in all the things, moon is the most important. That's why we focus on the moon, and the moon nakshatra creates your Mahadasha sequence as well, just to highlight the significance of moon. So when moon is exalted, you know all the significations of moon, it does great. So what is the power of moon in Scorpio? The moon in Scorpio is about the emotional vulnerability. Eighth house is not a pleasant house. Eighth house is a difficult house to deal with. Eighth house is the house where um, all the ups and downs in your life you will experience. So when you have moon in the Scorpio, you feel that emotional up and down. The planet moon itself is fluctuating, and now this planet is going into the eighth house of depth, eighth house of darkness. More than darkness, it is the depth, it is the darkness and hidden house. So all the ups and downs are there, but they are hidden. So the power is you get access to secret information. You get the feeling to a whole new world. For example, let's say you are having moon in Scorpio and Dasha transit, everything is triggered for you, and now you start getting interest into astrology. Eighth house is also about bhakti. Eighth house is also about psychology. Eighth house is also about um, the psychology and ups and downs as well. All these things resonates with the Scorpio as well. And when moon comes in here, the strength or the power of this moon is to get this access to this secret information out of the emotional churning of the Scorpio. Eighth house or Scorpio is not only the house of death, it is also the house of rebirth. Do you remember many times we feel when we look back, if you're old enough, you look back at your life and you see you were someone, you were something different back then, and now you have become completely different person. That is moon in the Scorpio transformation, because that helps you to transform yourself into something different, something good. Okay, so yes, so if you have any questions you can always reach out to me. Now let's talk about the Neechbhanga. Neech means debilitated, Bhanga means cancel. So the cancellation of debilitation is Neechbhanga. So what are the rules of cancellation for Neechbhanga? So there are different rules of cancellation, for which I have already made a separate video on that with Neechbhanga. You can go and check out that video. But for example, let's say you have a debilitated planet, and if that debilitated planet, it is connected with the lord of that. For example, Venus is debilitated into the sign of Virgo, and Mercury is also connected with the Virgo, as in is conjunct with Virgo. Excellent. This is one type of Neechbhanga. Another way of looking at Neechbhanga is when you have the planet in its Kendra. Debilitated planet is having a planet which is exalted in the Kendra. That is another way of looking at Neechbhanga. And there is one more way to look at it is, for example, let's say you have Venus placed into, I'm keeping the planet constant so that you will have a better understanding about the conditions and how it happens and how it works. Okay, so when you have Venus into the sign of debilitation, let's say in uh, Virgo, and now it is going into the sign of Pisces in D9 chart. So this is the cancellation of the debilitation. It is also the Neechbhanga. And it is called as Raj Yoga because it cancels the effects of this debilitation and brings in positive results of that planet. Okay, so you go and watch that, and if you still have any specific condition you want to understand or want to have my feedback on, you put your questions into the comment section. I read all the comments and I reply to all the comments as well. Sending you tons of positive energy, sending you high vibrations. See you in the next video. Love and peace. Namaste. See you in the comment box. And if you want, you can go and get the 33 days Vedic astrology bootcamp or consultations on my website. See you in the next video. Namaste.